Good afternoon to you. Mark South, HurricaneTrack here. Wednesday now, the 24th of July, 2024. I am feeling a little bit better today, which is great because we have a lot to talk about. The Euro there, the old Euro trying to scare up some development in the Southwest Atlantic as we end the month of July and get into the early part of August. My job will be to try to dissect that and see if it's viable, if it's something we can put stock in, or is the Euro out on an island of its own in the middle of the ocean, just drifting aimlessly. Trying to come up with interesting stuff here. So yes, we'll take a look at that. And at the end of the update today, off to my right, a science experiment. Ooh, yes. The Twisters science, and I'm not going to spoil anything, don't worry. But it's interesting because it's related to our partner, Quick Dams. And when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, I got to talk about that. And I can actually demonstrate it for you as we wrap everything up today. All right? Well, let's get started because we do have a lot to cover. And let's get on with it. In the Atlantic Basin, nice and quiet over the next 7 days. I'll show you why. It's pretty impressive, too. Wait till you see this. In the East Pack, however, a couple of areas to watch. This one's 50% chance over the next 2 and 7 days. But it's going to have to hurry because once it gets out into here, much less thermodynamic, the environment thermodynamically is just not favorable, so it's going to have to hurry up if it's going to do anything at all. Speaking of poor thermodynamics, look at this. This is the Saharan air layer literally blasting its way off of Africa out into the Atlantic there. There's another portion of it here. But look back out this way off the Canary Islands. Look at these clouds through here. They just disappear. See that? They just erode away as that dry mid-level air gets thrust out into the Atlantic. There's dust in the atmosphere, that particulate silicate stuff, the sand, helping to absorb the moisture a little bit too. But mainly it's that mid-level dry air. The humidity values are just ridiculously low, and that is keeping a big-time cap on Atlantic Basin development anytime soon. But it's still a pretty active intertropical convergent zone. Pretty far to the south, though. That's 10 degrees north latitude. A couple minor disturbances here and there, but nothing concentrating, nothing to worry about for development anytime soon. Although, like I said, the Euro is trying to scare something up. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But in the East Pack, though, this is 180 hours out. Let's back it up. There's that first system. This is the one that has 50%. I'll even write it in there myself. 50% chance of development. But watch what happens. It's going to have to hurry because even in the next 24 to 36 hours, it's practically gone. So I think 50% could be generous. We'll see about that. The thermodynamics out there, cooler sea surface temperatures, drier air, all that kind of stuff, not conducive for that to go on to do very much. But later on in the period, another system tries to develop in the extreme southeastern Pacific, and you can see that coming together here. Kind of has that S shape to it right there. Vorticity concentrating in the middle. So maybe, that's about 132 hours out. It's a little over 5 days, and it does go on to try to develop into a storm. Pretty formidable storm there in the modeling. And if this were to occur, if this happens, remember Aletta was only around for like 12 hours. The entire Eastern Pacific hurricane season has been 12 hours this year, if memory serves. I think that's right. So the next one that forms, we'll see. We are getting close to August now, and this is actually August 1st that the model is showing there. Start playing catch-up a little bit, and then that energy and that favorability should move over into the Atlantic Basin, part of this coming Madden-Julian oscillation, what we call the big standing wave of forcing in the upper parts of the atmosphere and kind of letting off the brakes of all that dust and climatology and everything just kind of coming together, that maybe we start to see the switch flipping for the Atlantic as we close out July and getting into August. And that brings me to this. The Euro is starting to pick up on that. Here's a tweet here from Florida Tropics over on the old Twitter. 0Z Euro continues to show potential for something to develop at the end of next week near the Bahamas, Cuba. About a third of the 0Z Euro ensemble members show some development as well. So a very well stated factual tweet. Nothing scary about it. Nothing. It's just facts. It's matter of fact. I love it. So there you go. That's 10 millibars. No, nothing to worry about. But a heavy rainmaker if this were to happen exactly as it shows. But it's a hint, right? It's a clue from the Euro and some of the ensembles there that something may be starting to change in the Atlantic Basin that gears us more towards, a more prolific time coming up, steering us in that direction. So a very relevant and helpful tweet there, and I like the end of it. Still far out in time, but something to watch. And I like to think of these ensembles and the way we can look at these models many days out is a gift. We can see this stuff coming, and it gives us time to get ready, whatever that means for us as individuals. So let's look at it. Let's break it down. So very important to note, this is yesterday, 12Z run of the Euro. So we're going back in time a little bit. And starting to see something come together over here at the end of the time frame. So where does it come from? How do we get there? That's what I like to do, kind of play detective here. So let's scooch this out through time. This is, again, 24 hours ago. Nothing, 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 and then, oh, wait a minute, at about a week's time, so 168 hours out, there is something right there. The tropical wave starts to come together, and then sure enough, it ends up in the southeast Bahamas, and it looks rather, I don't want to say menacing, but, you'd want to pay attention to that if it were going to become reality. But this is the model. This is not the real world. This is the modeled world, numerical weather prediction. And then you got to go back and look and say, well, wait a minute. We got all this dust out there now. How are we going to get something that ends with this, with all that dust out there? Well, glad you asked, because we can go look at that. Let's look at the precip moisture, and sure enough, there's the dust. You can see, well, you don't see the dust here, but you can see the very low humidity values all through the Atlantic Basin. So where does the system come from? That's what I want to know. So let's watch and see. Let's just run it through, see it to fruition all the way to the end, and there's 10 days out. So where does it come from? Pretty easy to see it right there, and I'm going to draw on it. There it is. The system comes off Africa as a easterly wave in about 3 days, 69 hours out that I've got circled here. And let's move it out to the 168 mark. Remember, that's where it looks like it's more amplified. And is it still the same wave? Yes, it is. It goes from there, and there it is over there. And we can go back and kind of connect them. Yep, it is the same energy. So at least there is a viable energy source that comes off of Africa, plenty of moisture in the moisture envelope. The Saharan air starts to relent at about 7 days or so, and then on that system goes into the southeast Bahamas, where climatologically things are generally more favorable. So, hopefully, as I've been doing this, the current Euro is now available off the Tidbit sites. Let's go see on the EC Fast, as we call it. And we got it out to about 9 days. So that'll suffice. So let's look at the same kind of thing here. This doesn't have our same products that the full one does, but this will do. 850 millibars. Let's see if it's still there. Yes, it is. At day 9, just north of Hispaniola. So to me, it says basically this. We are in late July. We're getting into early August. We could see some development in the East Pac. That favorable window could slide into the Atlantic. The Euro, some of its ensembles are picking up on it. So yes, we do need to watch. Am I worried about it? There's nothing to be worried about at all. Not yet. And what would worrying do anyway? People ask me that all the time. Are you worried about this? Are you worried about that? Worrying doesn't help. Taking action does help. You see something, you say, oh, that might be coming my way, instead of worrying. And I know it sounds like cliche or metaphorical or whatever, but seriously, do something about it. If you're concerned, maybe use it. Hey, look, the last frame finally came out just as I was talking. Now, that certainly is pretty amplified looking there, and that's on Saturday, August 3rd. So yes, we do need to pay attention. Do we need to be concerned? No. You spend your energy making sure that if something is coming our way, wherever that may be, the Caribbean islands, South Florida, whatever, that we are ready for it. Because look at that date. It's August 3rd. It's hurricane season. We need to be ready no matter what. So we'll watch it. We'll see. It's still 10 days out. The model is pretty good. It is the Euro we're talking about. It's ensembles and so forth. The pattern generally fits. So there's some check boxes on the pro side. But all that dry air, I'm just not convinced. We'll have to see if that does abate and get mixed out in time for something to get going. But the Euro is pretty consistent, and we don't want to ignore that signal. But at the same time, not time to be hitting any panic buttons either. All right? So again, twisters. Saw it again last night with a good friend of mine, Mr. Mike Farrow. and I've known him since like the late 90s. A lot of fun. It's a great movie. Not going to spoil anything by what I'm going to show you. But this little graphic here, part of their trailer, she's trying to put, and this is again not a spoiler because it comes into the movie within like the first 20 minutes, she wants to stop, or at least tame, as she says, a tornado using a polymer. This stuff right here. Literally, this sodium polyacrytate, or however you say it. It's basically an absorbent material that's just like what's found in diapers. And they literally say that line in the movie. They're shooting some B-roll as they're getting ready to do their first experiment to see if this will work. And I was like, wait a minute. That's the same exact stuff that's in the quick dams that I talk about so often here as one of our partners for flood mitigation. So I thought, well, at least let me prove that her idea had some merit. Now, you got to see the movie to see how it ends up. That's all Hollywood, science fiction, and fantasy. But it is not completely buffoonery. You understand? There is some science rooted in the idea that some of this powder here could absorb enough moisture to make a difference. But as Tyler Owen says, you'd need a silo's worth of it, at least that amount, to tame a tornado or stop a tornado or whatever. But I thought I'd give you a little demo here. Here's a glass of water. See, it's real glass, no AI stuff, no augmented reality here, folks. This is what you get. So there's my little tornado in the glass. That's not the point, though. We're not trying to stop that. I wanted to show you that just this amount, it's not much versus how much is in the glass. See? That this will absorb all of that water. I'm not going to move anything. There's no trickery. Watch what happens. This is, I didn't even put all of it in there. So this amount of powder, the polymer, the sodium polyacrytate or whatever it is, absorbs. In fact, it absorbs so much of it, there's still powder on the surface. That's funny. I got to dump some of it out or I'm going to ruin my desk. Look at that. The stuff remnants notwithstanding, that's the water. It's now turned into this gel stuff that looks very much like snow. See? Literally, that's the idea in the movie Twisters, and that is the exact same stuff that is in these flood bags and flood dams and other products from Quick Dam. In fact, they sell on their website this very polymer that you can make fake snow at home with, and I swear it looks exactly like snow, except it's not cold. Pretty remarkable stuff. It's been around, the polymer, sure. They didn't invent it, but they're using it in a very cool way. Unlike the movie Twisters, where it is science fiction. I mean, come on, we're not going to be able to stop tornadoes. We just have to adapt and be ready for them. This stuff actually works, and I just proved it to you. That little bit of powder absorbed all that water, and there's still plenty left over. I could probably add more water to this. And so I figured I'd just show you, give you a live demonstration here, all right? Hey, look, I'll put a link to some of their products for you in today's update over on Amazon. If you want to get some, it's pretty amazing stuff. I'm proud to be partnering with them. And of course, Twisters in theaters now. Not a sponsorship from Universal to me or whatever. I just liked the movie. It was a lot of fun, and I don't think I ruined anything for you. If you go see it, you'll already know ahead of time they're going to use diaper material, the polymer there, to try to tame a tornado. So there you go, some Twisters science at the end of today's update. All right, we'll keep watching what's happening. Don't worry about the Euro just yet. Plenty of time to see what's going on with it. And we're on top of it. That's what we do here. All right, have a good rest of your Wednesday. I'm Mark Sudduth from HurricaneTrack. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.